I'm lifting my glass for another toast when I hear my name from the hallway. The conversation drifts through the partially open door of my father's study, carried by my brother's voice. She finally has enough money to help save our family legacy. Dominic's words hit me like a physical blow. That promotion couldn't have come at a better time. My father's deeper voice follows. Let's not rush this. Clarissa's always been cautious with her finances. We've been discussing this for weeks, my mother says. The Vineyard needs that investment now, not when she's ready. The wine glass slips from my fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor of the dining room. Cabernet splashes across my cream slacks and pools around the broken crystal, our family vineyard's signature vintage, now soaking into the centuries-old oak planks my great-grandfather installed. I stand frozen as the realization washes over me. This celebration dinner, supposedly to honor my promotion at Westbrook Design, was actually staged to soften me up. They've been planning to ask for my money. No, not ask. Expect. My hand trembles as I bend to collect the larger shards of glass. The cut on my finger barely registers as I try to process what I've just heard. $100,000. The exact amount I've saved for my cabin near Yosemite. When I was 12, I'd begged Dad to teach me about wine production alongside Dominic. I remember trailing after them toward the fermentation room, my notebook clutched in my hands. Clarissa, Dad had called over his shoulder. Your mother needs help in the kitchen. This is men's work. I'd watched from the window as he showed Dominic how to test the grapes, how to sense when they were ready for harvest. Later that night, Dominic's C- in science was celebrated with ice cream. My academic award certificate remained stuck to the refrigerator, unremarked. The memory burns as I rise, leaving the broken glass behind. My hands have stopped shaking by the time I push open the study door. 3 heads turn toward me. The silence stretches taut between us. What were you just saying about my finances? I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. Mother recovers first, her smile sliding into place. We're just proud of how well you're doing, dear. That promotion is quite an achievement. I notice something strange. My hands have completely stopped trembling. The familiar anxiety that usually churns in my stomach when confronting my family has quieted. In its place is something unfamiliar. Clarity. I know exactly what you were planning, I say. You've been discussing how to get my money for weeks. For Dominic's tasting room. Mother's smile falters. Dad's chair creaks as he straightens. Your brother has put his whole life into this vineyard, Dad says, his tone hardening. The Matthews name means something in this valley because of his dedication. Dominic leans against the mahogany desk, arms crossed. This isn't just about me. It's about our family legacy. The tasting room expansion could double our revenue. I calculate quickly in my head 6 years of careful saving, working weekends, taking on additional projects. 6 years of independence sacrificed for a brother who's never sacrificed anything for me. That money is for my cabin, I say, my investment in my future. Mother's lips press into a thin line. So you'd put a vacation home above family? It's not a vacation home, it's my future. I meet each of their eyes in turn. And this isn't about family, it's about bailing out Dominic. Again. Dad's face reddens. You've always been selfish, Clarissa. Always thinking about yourself instead of what this family has given you. The accusation hangs in the air between us. What this family has given me. Recognition that always came with conditions. Support that was never quite equal to what Dominic received. Love that felt earned, rather than given. I'm not giving you my money, I say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Not 1 cent. Dominic pushes away from the desk. Then maybe you shouldn't consider yourself part of this family's future. The threat lands exactly as intended. Exclusion, the ultimate punishment for failing to comply. For 3 decades, the fear of being cut off from my family has kept me obedient, kept me trying to earn the approval that Dominic receives simply for existing. I look at them, these people who raised me, who shaped me, who are now trying to use me, and something shifts inside my chest. The cost of staying in their good graces has finally become too high. I guess we'll see about that, I say, turning toward the door. Behind me, I hear my mother's sharp intake of breath, my father's muttered curse. But for the first time in my life, I don't look back to gauge their reaction. I don't try to smooth things over. I just keep walking. The next day, at my apartment, the email sits on my laptop screen, its words burning into my retinas like acid. I stagger backward into my desk chair, stomach lurching as though I've been physically struck. Regarding strategies to secure Clarissa's contribution, reads the subject line. The message is from my father to our family financial advisor, who forwarded it to me, with my mother and brother copied. Paul, we need to present this as an opportunity, not a request, my father wrote. Clarissa has always been cautious with her money, too cautious, if you ask me. The promotion puts her in a position where she can finally contribute to the family legacy. We're thinking $100,000 for a 10% stake. My mother's reply follows. Remember to emphasize the family aspect. She's always wanted to be included. The final punch comes from Dominic. Let's call it Dominic's tasting room in the official paperwork. After all, I'm the one who's kept this place going while she's been building her little career. My hands shake as I scroll through weeks of correspondence. They've been planning this ambush for months, calculating the exact moment when my promotion would make me financially viable to them. Not as a daughter or sister, as a resource. I print everything, tucking the pages into a folder. Evidence. The next morning, I park across from the Hartwell & Sons law office, watching my family file inside. They don't know I'm here. After Sunday's confrontation, Mother left 3 voicemails insisting we talk through this misunderstanding like adults. Father hasn't called at all. Through the glass storefront, I can see them arranging themselves around the massive oak table in the conference room. Mother smooths her skirt, Father checks his watch, and Dominic spreads papers across the polished surface. Aunt Martha sits stiffly beside them, her hands folded in her lap. The investment documents are centered precisely in front of an empty chair. My chair. I don't go inside. Instead, I call the office from my car. This is Clarissa Matthews. I'll be joining the meeting by phone only. I'm connected to the speakerphone in the conference room. Clarissa, darling. What's this nonsense? Just come inside. Mother says. I'd prefer to have this conversation with some distance, I reply, surprising myself with my steady voice. Roger Hartwell, our family lawyer since before I was born, clears his throat. Well, we're here to discuss the investment opportunity in Matthews Family Vineyards. Specifically, the expansion project for Dominic's tasting room, I finish for him. Yes, I've seen the emails. A weighted silence falls over the line. Those were private communications. My father finally says, his voice tight. About me. Without me. I take a deep breath. How many other family members have you approached for money? Another silence. Then Aunt Martha speaks, her voice smaller than I've ever heard it. They got $50,000 from me last year. For new fermentation equipment. She pauses. The equipment was never purchased. That was different, Dominic interjects. We had unexpected costs with the irrigation system, but this time it's different. The tasting room will transform our revenue stream. Dominic interjects with Dominic. Like the wine club transformed it 3 years ago? Aunt Martha asks quietly. Or the online store before that? Through the window, I watch Dominic's face redden. My phone buzzes with incoming texts. Uncle Robert. Don't let them pressure you, Clarissa. Cousin Stephanie. Are you going to do your part for the family legacy? Grandmother's nurse. Your grandmother hopes you'll consider what family unity means to her at her age. The subtext is clear. Refuse, and I risk losing my relationship with my 7-year-old grandmother, who still believes in family unity above all else. The thought sends a pang through my chest. I do quick mental calculations as the conversation continues in the background. 6 years of saving, thousands of hours of overtime. If I give them what they want, I'll need at least 4 more years to rebuild my savings. 4 years of delaying my own dreams for Dominic's EDI. I need to go, I say abruptly. I have a meeting. Clarissa, wait. Mother begins, but I've already ended the call. At Westbrook Design, I bury myself in work, trying not to think about the weight of family expectations crushing me from 40 miles away. Just before lunch, Elaine, my boss, stops by my desk. You okay? You seem distracted. Her eyes, sharp behind stylish frames, assess me with genuine concern. Family stuff. I say, attempting a smile. She nods, then glances at the Yosemite cabin, listing partially hidden beneath my drafting papers. That the property you've been saving for? Yes, but my family. They want me to invest in my brother's vineyard expansion instead. Elaine leans against my desk. You know, when I recommended you for promotion, there were 3 other candidates. You weren't the most senior, but you were the most deserving. She taps my latest project proposal. Your promotion wasn't luck, Clarissa. It was earned. Something loosens in my chest at her words. One small moment of validation in a lifetime of being overlooked. As I drive home that evening, I wonder if protecting my financial future is worth the family relationships I might lose. Should I stand firm against decades of favoritism? Or make one sacrifice to keep peace with the only family I have? The cabin listing sits on the passenger seat beside me, its promise of independence almost tangible. On my phone, 3 more missed calls from my mother. I turn toward home, decision still unmade. The next day at work, the notification pings while I'm reviewing blueprints at my desk. I ignored it at first, focused on the structural modifications for the Peterson project. When my phone buzzes a second time, I glance down. A string of alerts from Facebook. Odd. I tap the screen and freeze. Dominic's latest post fills my display, a sunset photograph of our family vineyard, rows of carefully tended vines stretching toward distant mountains. Below it, his caption reads, "Family support makes dreams come true. Excited to announce expansion plans for Matthew's Vineyard. Family legacy. Vineyard life." Comments flood the post. Cousin Melissa, so proud of you carrying on the Matthews tradition. Aunt Joanne, a good sister always supports her brother. Family first. Uncle Stephen, can't wait to see the tasting room with your name on it. My fingers hover over the screen. They've all assumed I'm part of this. Without my consent or even my knowledge, I've been cast as the supportive sister bankrolling my brother's vanity project. I close Facebook before I type something I'll regret. The office phone rings. I answer without checking the caller ID. "Clarissa, it's your mother." My shoulders tense instantly. "I'm at work, Mom." "This will only take a moment. Your father and I are hosting a family reunion next weekend at the Vineyard. Dominic will be presenting his expansion vision to everyone. We expect you there, of course." Not a request, a summons. The familiar pressure builds in my chest. I'll have to check my schedule, I say, knowing it won't matter what conflicts I cite. "Family comes first, Clarissa. Saturday at 4. She hangs up before I can respond. My hand trembles slightly as I place the receiver down. They're escalating, moving this from private manipulation to public pressure. The reunion isn't about family, it's about cornering me in front of witnesses. When my cell phone rings 20 minutes later, I nearly jump out of my skin. The area code matches my hometown. I let it go to voicemail. The same thing happens twice more that afternoon, calls from my family's area code that I can't bring myself to answer. By the third call, my heart races at the mere sound of the ringtone. I silence my phone completely. Later that evening, I check my voicemail. The first is from my bank. My mortgage officer, Mike Belton, sounds oddly hesitant. "Miss Matthews, we need to discuss your pre-approval for the Yosemite property. Some concerns have been raised about your financial commitments. Please call me back as soon as possible." The room tilts slightly. Concerns? What concerns? The second message clarifies everything. Uncle Robert's voice. "Clarissa, just had a nice chat with Mike Belton. We go way back to high school. Mentioned you might be overextending yourself with this cabin idea while the family business needs support. Call me." I sink onto my couch, nausea rising. They're sabotaging my mortgage. My own family is actively working to destroy my financial future to secure their own. For the next hour, I methodically document every communication, screenshots of Dominic's post and the comments, my mother's call, the voicemails. I send an email to my bank, requesting all interactions regarding my mortgage application be conducted in writing and password protected. I change every password on my financial accounts. I contact the credit bureaus to place alerts on my credit reports. By midnight, my dining table is covered with papers, financial records, property information, loan documents. I'm constructing a fortress around my savings, brick by meticulous brick. My phone rings again. Unknown number. I almost ignore it, but something makes me answer. "Clarissa, it's Sandra, your real estate agent." My grip tightens on the phone. Has something happened with the mortgage? "Nothing like that," Sandra says, her voice brightening. "Actually, I have amazing news. Remember that property in Oakhurst we discussed? The owners just dropped the price by 15%. It's perfect for you, 3 acres, that gorgeous view of the mountains, and it's just 10 minutes from the park entrance." For the first time in days, I feel something other than dread. Is it still within my budget? With the price reduction? Absolutely. Sometimes the universe makes a decision clear. She pauses, then laughs. "And wait until you hear what the locals call that ridge, Independent Ridge." I find myself laughing with her. The name couldn't be more perfect. I want to see it. This weekend, if possible. I'll set it up, Sandra promises. After we hang up, I stand at my window, looking out at the city lights. For a moment, I can almost see it, my cabin on that ridge. A place that belongs solely to me, built with money I earned through my own talent and determination. The doorbell rings, shattering my reverie. It's nearly 1 a.m. I peer through the peephole and see my mother standing in the hallway holding a wine bottle. I open the door without greeting her. She steps inside, presenting the bottle like an offering. Matthew's Reserve Cabernet, 1,989. She says, "From the year you were born. We've been saving it for a special occasion." The bottle's label bears our family crest, the one that never quite felt like it belonged to me. The wine inside is nearly black in the dim light, dense and valuable. "This is just the beginning of what you'll receive if you invest in the family," she continues, setting the bottle on my counter. "A case of reserve wines every year. Your name on a plaque in the tasting room. Your children's future secured." The calculation of it all, bringing this bottle in the middle of the night, the implicit bribe ignites something in me. "My future isn't for sale," I say quietly, "not even to my family." Mother's smile falters. "Don't be dramatic, Clarissa. This is about legacy." "No, it's about Dominic. It always has been. We've always supported both our children equally." The lie hangs between us, so blatant it almost takes physical form. 3 decades of seeking their approval flash through my mind. The academic achievements, the career successes, the financial discipline, all in pursuit of the recognition Dominic received simply for existing. "I think you should leave," I say. She reaches for the wine bottle, but I place my hand over hers. "Leave the wine. I might need it while I'm signing the papers for my cabin." The next morning at work, I find James at the coffee machine. Without preamble, I ask, "Can you help me draft an email?" "Threatening to quit already?" He jokes, then sees my expression. "What's going on?" I explain the situation while we walk back to his office. He listens without interruption, without judgment. When I finish, he simply nods and opens his laptop. "Family financial boundaries email," he says, typing. "Let's make this crystal clear without burning bridges you might want later." For the next hour, we craft a message that's professional, direct, and unambiguous. No emotional appeals, no justifications. Just clear statements of my financial autonomy and the consequences of further interference. "This is perfect," I say when we finish. "Thank you for helping me." "That's what friends do," James says simply. That evening, I call Sandra and schedule the cabin viewing for Saturday afternoon, the exact time of my family's reunion. While on the phone, I send the email James and I crafted to my entire family. The moment after I hit send, a weight lifts from my shoulders. At my dining table, I create a detailed spreadsheet comparing the financial returns of investing in my cabin versus the Vineyard, property appreciation rates, rental income potential, tax advantages. The numbers don't lie, my cabin is objectively the better investment. My phone rings. It's my bank. "Miss Matthews? This is Eliza Cooper from First Sierra Bank. I understand you've been working with Mountainside Financial on your cabin purchase, but I wanted to introduce myself. We specialize in vacation properties in the Yosemite area and can offer you significantly better terms than your current pre-approval." I smile as I add this new information to my spreadsheet. The universe does indeed seem to be making the decision clear. On Saturday evening, I drive through the iron gates of Matthew's Vineyard. That day I went to visit my new property, and since I gathered the necessary documents, I went to confront my family. The gravel crunches under my tires as I park beside a row of familiar vehicles. Through the tasting room windows, I can see them all already seated around the massive oak table. My parents, Dominic, Aunt Martha, Uncle Robert, the family lawyer. On the table in front of my empty chair sits a stack of LLC documents, waiting for my signature. I straighten my shoulders and reach for my briefcase containing my cabin's pre-approval letter, my financial analysis, and the deed reservation for my property on Independent Ridge. Time to show them exactly what I've learned about investments. I stand at the head of the massive oak table that has witnessed 4 generations of Matthew's family gatherings. Everyone's eyes are on me, some curious, furious due to being late, others wary, a few downright hostile. Aunt Martha fiddles with her pearl necklace. Uncle Robert drums his fingers against his coffee mug. Dominic sits directly opposite me, arms crossed, jaw set. The manila folder in my hands contains 10 years of Vineyard financial reports that took me 3 sleepless nights to compile. I've highlighted the key sections in yellow, impossible to miss or dismiss. Thank you all for inviting me, I say, my voice steadier than it's ever been in this room. Before we discuss any investment in Dominic's tasting room expansion, I'd like to review the Vineyard's actual performance. I lay out the first report, sliding copies toward each family member. For the past decade, the Matthews Vineyard has operated at a profit margin of less than 2%. That's significantly below industry standard. Dad shifts in his chair. Mom's smile tightens. In 2019, there was actually a loss of $35,000. I continue, making deliberate eye contact with each person around the table. And in 2021, despite record tourism in the valley, profits were only $12,000. Aunt Martha glances at Dominic, her eyebrows pulling together in silent question. Last year's harvest yielded 20% fewer grapes than projected, I say, placing another document on the table. Yet the projection for this year claims a 30% increase with no explanation for the turnaround. Those numbers don't tell the whole story, Dominic interrupts, his voice cutting across the room. You've never cared about the family legacy. You don't understand what it takes to run a vineyard. You just sit in your fancy office drawing pictures of buildings while I'm working the land every day. The room falls silent. I wait, expecting Dad to jump to Dominic's defense as he always has. Instead, Uncle Robert clears his throat. Actually, I recall Clarissa trying to learn about the vineyard operations when she was younger. He looks directly at Dad. Wasn't she the one who kept asking to help with the harvest? To learn about fermentation? Dad's face reddens. That's right, Aunt Martha says, her voice gentle but firm. I remember Clarissa asking me about bookkeeping for the vineyard when she was in high school, said she wanted to help with the business side. I was told it wasn't my place, I say quietly. That Dominic would handle the vineyard business. Mom leans forward. That was years ago, Clarissa. This is about now, about family loyalty. Is it loyalty to invest in a business I was never allowed to participate in? I ask. A business that, according to these numbers, hasn't been profitable enough to sustain itself for over a decade? Several relatives exchange glances. The atmosphere in the room shifts perceptibly. Grandmother Helen, who has been silent until now, reaches across the table to touch my hand. Would you consider a smaller investment, dear, just to keep peace in the family? I hesitate. Would a token contribution maintain relationships while protecting my dreams, or would any compromise simply enable more demands in the future? The cabin plans flash through my mind, my own piece of land, my own legacy. Before I can answer, my phone buzzes. Elaine's name appears on the screen. Excuse me, I say, stepping away from the table. I need to take this. Clarissa, Elaine says, her voice crisp and professional. I'm sorry to interrupt your family gathering, but we have an emergency with the Westridge project. The client is demanding immediate revisions to the East Wing before Monday's presentation. Relief washes through me. We'd planned this call a lifeline if the family pressure became too intense. I understand, I reply, keeping my voice appropriately concerned. I'll be there as soon as I can. When I return to the table, expressions range from disappointment to suspicion. I'm sorry, I announce. There's an emergency at work. I need to leave immediately. This is more important than your job, Dad insists. We need an answer today, Mom adds. Dominic slams his hand on the table. This is exactly why the vineyard is struggling, because no one in this family is willing to sacrifice anything for its success. His face flushes dark red. You think I haven't put everything I have into this place? We're drowning in debt. The bank is threatening foreclosure if we don't show major improvements by next quarter. The room falls silent. Several relatives stare at Dominic with new awareness. Foreclosure? Uncle Robert repeats. You never mentioned that. Why would my $100,000 make a difference if things are that dire? I ask quietly. Dominic doesn't answer. The question hangs in the air between us. I think we all need time to process this new information. Aunt Martha says carefully. Perhaps we should reconvene next weekend, after everyone's had a chance to review the numbers Clarissa provided. Dad opens his mouth to object, but Mom places a hand on his arm. That's reasonable, she says, though her eyes flash with frustration. We'll meet here at the vineyard next Saturday, for a final decision. As I gather my papers, I catch Grandmother Helen watching me, her weathered face thoughtful. She gives me a single, almost imperceptible nod. I walk out of the dining room with my head high, the knowledge of my scheduled cabin viewing the following morning a secret strength carrying me forward. The final blow comes next week on Saturday. I arrive at the vineyard with the sun casting long shadows across the rows of grapevines. The tasting room doors stand open, welcoming the cool autumn breeze that carries the scent of fermenting grapes and freshly tilled soil. My hands grip the steering wheel tighter as I spot Dominic's truck parked beside our parents' sedan. They're waiting for me inside. I can feel it. Dad rises from his seat at the tasting room's oak table when I enter, his smile too wide, too practiced. Mom fusses with a tray of cheese and crackers, avoiding my eyes. Dominic stands by the window, watching the vineyard workers tend to the morning harvest. Clarissa. Dad gestures to the empty chair. We were hoping you'd join us for breakfast before the family arrives later. I set my leather portfolio on the table but remain standing. I'm not hungry. Dominic turns from the window, straightening his Vineyard logo polo shirt. We've been talking, and we have a special proposal for you. Mom slides into the chair beside Dad, finally meeting my gaze. We know how much your financial independence means to you, so we've adjusted our offer. An exclusive family arrangement, Dad adds, sliding a folder toward me. Instead of 10% ownership for your investment, we're offering 15%. I flip open the folder, scanning the new ownership agreement. The text blurs slightly as anger rises in my throat. 15%. Dominic repeats, his voice practiced, smooth. That's a 50% increase in your stake, Clarissa. No one else in the family is getting these terms. Dad leans forward, elbows on the table, fingers steepled. $100,000 for 15% ownership in a vineyard that's been in our family for 4 generations? Your great-grandfather would be proud to see you stepping up, Mom says, touching my wrist. Family supporting family. The subtext hangs heavy in the air. Refusing means choosing money over family. I close the folder slowly, gathering my thoughts. My heart hammers against my ribs, but my voice remains steady when I finally speak. I've already invested my money. The silence that follows stretches taut between us. Mom's fingers retreat from my wrist. What do you mean? Dominic demands, crossing the room in 3 quick strides. I unzip my portfolio and remove a stack of photographs, laying them one by one on the table. I bought a cabin in Oakhurst last week, 2 acres with views of Yosemite. The first photo shows a rustic A-frame nestled among towering pines. The second captures the panoramic mountain vista from the back deck. The third displays the deed with my name printed across it. You bought property without telling us? Mom whispers, her fingers hovering over the photos. Just like you discussed my finances without telling me. I meet her gaze, unflinching. I've invested in my own legacy, one I built myself. Dad's face darkens. This is incredibly selfish, Clarissa. Your brother has had every advantage I never did. I finish for him, and he's still asking for more. The tasting room door swings open as Uncle Robert arrives with Aunt Judith and grandmother. More family members filter in behind them, carrying potluck dishes for the reunion lunch. I hadn't expected so many so early. Perfect timing. Dominic forces a smile for the newcomers while hissing under his breath. We're not done discussing this. Actually, we are. I turn toward my extended family, raising my voice slightly. Since everyone's here, I'd like to share something important about the vineyard expansion. The room quiets as I retrieve my laptop from my portfolio. Opening a financial analysis spreadsheet, I connect to the tasting room's wall-mounted display. I've reviewed the vineyard's finances for the past decade. I begin, clicking through charts showing declining profit margins despite increased production. Based on current debt load and market projections, the tasting room expansion would require 5 investors at $100,000 each to become profitable within 5 years. Quote, Uncle Robert steps closer to examine the numbers. 500,000? Dominic said you'd need just 1 or 2 investors. Dominic lurches forward. Her numbers are wrong. She doesn't understand the business. Which numbers are wrong specifically? I ask, scrolling through the detailed analysis. The overhead costs you provided to the bank last quarter? Or the profit projections you shared with potential investors last month? Dominic's mouth opens and closes, no words emerging as he realizes I've accessed the same financial records he used to secure his business loan. These numbers contradict each other. I continue, highlighting discrepancies between documents. Either the Vineyard is struggling more than you've admitted, or you've misrepresented its potential to investors. Uncle Robert removes his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Maybe it's time to consider professional vineyard management instead of more family investment. The room erupts in murmured conversations. I catch grandmother's gaze across the crowd, expecting disappointment. Instead, she offers a slight nod, her eyes clear with something that might be respect. Later that evening, as I drive back to my condo, my phone buzzes with texts about rumors that 3 potential investors have withdrawn their interest in the vineyard. My parents haven't called or messaged since I left the reunion. When my phone chimes again at midnight, I expect another angry family member. Instead, Dominic's name appears with a message. We need to talk privately. I have a new proposal. I set the phone down without replying, watching city lights shimmer through my window. Whatever his new proposal might be, I'll face it on my terms, not his. For the first time in my life, that feels like enough. Based on current debt load and market projections, the tasting room expansion would require 5 investors at $100,000 each to become profitable within 5 years. Quote, Uncle Robert steps closer to examine the numbers. 500,000? Dominic said you'd need just 1 or 2 investors. Dominic lurches forward. Her numbers are wrong. She doesn't understand the business. Which numbers are wrong specifically? I ask, scrolling through the detailed analysis. The overhead costs you provided to the bank last quarter? Or the profit projections you shared with potential investors last month? Dominic's mouth opens and closes, no words emerging as he realizes I've accessed the same financial records he used to secure his business loan. These numbers contradict each other. I continue, highlighting discrepancies between documents. Either the Vineyard is struggling more than you've admitted, or you've misrepresented its potential to investors. Uncle Robert removes his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Maybe it's time to consider professional vineyard management instead of more family investment. The room erupts in murmured conversations. I catch grandmother's gaze across the crowd, expecting disappointment. Instead, she offers a slight nod, her eyes clear with something that might be respect. Later that evening, as I drive back to my condo, my phone buzzes with texts about rumors that 3 potential investors have withdrawn their interest in the vineyard. My parents haven't called or messaged since I left the reunion. When my phone chimes again at midnight, I expect another angry family member. Instead, Dominic's name appears with a message. We need to talk privately. I have a new proposal. I set the phone down without replying, watching city lights shimmer through my window. Whatever his new proposal might be, I'll face it on my terms, not his. For the first time in my life, that feels like enough. I press my hand against the intricate embroidery adorning my wedding dress, fingers tracing the delicate desert florals I've spent months stitching. The fabric whispers against my skin as I step through my parents' front door, ready to share this piece of my heart with them. Champagne glasses clink in the distance. My steps falter. The sound floats from the formal living room, accompanied by familiar laughter that makes my stomach clench. I follow the noise, my dress rustling softly against the marble floors. Under the crystal chandelier, my sister Brooke twirls in a cloud of expensive perfume, her designer stilettos clicking against Italian tile. A small crowd of our parents' friends clusters around her, champagne flutes raised. May 14th at Oak Ridge Atelier, Brooke announces, her voice carrying that musical lilt she uses when she knows she has everyone's attention. My perfect day. The room spins. My fingers dig into the doorframe as I struggle to stay upright. That's my wedding date, my venue. Our mother, Margaret, beams, her social smile firmly in place as she squeezes Brooke's arm. Our father, Howard, stands nearby, chest puffed with pride, his watch catching the light as he raises his glass. That's my wedding date. The words slip out before I can stop them, barely above a whisper. The room goes quiet, almost quiet. Someone's champagne glass tinks against another. A throat clears. Brooke's eyes meet mine, bright with something that might be triumph. Oh, Clara, I didn't see you there. Of course she didn't. No one ever does. My mind drifts to Sedona, to Miles, down on one knee in the red dust at sunset. No cameras, no audience, just us and the desert wind and the turquoise ring he'd carved himself. We'd celebrated with a gas station hot chocolate, huddled in the back of his truck while he told me about the life we'd build together. A life that was ours, not a performance. I already booked Oak Ridge, I say, my voice steadier now. We met there, Miles and I. You know that. My mother sets down her champagne. Clara, darling, don't make a scene. I pull the hand-designed invitation from my bag, the one I'd come to show them. Desert flora and olive branches frame the date and venue. May 14th. Oak Ridge Atelier. Howard glances at it, his business smile sliding into place. A simple affair would suit you better anyway, Clara. Something intimate. The word drips with condescension. Like what's 12 and won the Young Artists competition. They'd missed the ceremony for Brooke's dance recital. It wasn't a major competition, they'd said, just a local thing. I looked down at my dress. One of my former students designed it with me. Every stitch holds meaning, every flower tells our story. Miles keeps telling me that's what matters, not the spectacle. Brooke. I step closer, my voice low. You know that's my wedding date and venue. She laughs, the sound like breaking glass. You didn't trademark it. Her wedding will have more people, more coverage. Howard cuts in, his tone clipped. It makes more business sense. Yours is so personal anyway. Margaret touches my arm, her fingers cold. You can move it, for your sister. You've always been so good about these things. The room blurs. I see myself at 8, giving Brooke my art supplies because she'd lost hers. At 16, I missed my first gallery showing because Brooke had a cold and needed company. At 25, letting her take credit for the mural design she'd watched me sketch. Always stepping aside. Always being the bigger person. You're being dramatic, Brooke says, but her eyes gleam with satisfaction. It's just a date. I look at my dress, at the invitation in my trembling hands, at my parents' practiced expressions of patient disapproval, at my sister's familiar smile of victory. Something shifts inside me, like a door long rusted shut finally breaking free. Without a word, I fold my dress over my arm. The fabric settles against me, soft and sure. I turn away from their expectant stares, their certainty that I'll yield, again. As I walk out into the fading sunlight, a question echoes in my mind, unfamiliar and sharp. What if I stopped disappearing? Behind me, champagne glasses clink. Celebration resumes, but for the first time, I don't look back. Have you ever watched someone take what was rightfully yours while everyone expected you to smile through it? My next move will show what happens when the responsible one finally stops being responsible for everyone else's feelings. 2 hours later, Oak Ridge Atelier's number flashes on my phone screen. I press accept, fingers steady despite the tremor in my chest. Clara Bennett speaking. Miss Bennett. Sarah Chen, the venue coordinator, clears her throat. I need to discuss your May 14th reservation. A cardinal lands on my office windowsill, red against glass. Of course. Your reservation has been canceled. The cardinal takes flight. My hand flattens against the cool surface of my desk. I'm sorry. We received a substantial offer to buy out the date. Her voice wavers. The other party indicated you were aware of the situation. Miles stands in my home office doorway, coffee cups in hand. His eyes find mine. The other party, I repeat, my sister. Sarah's silence confirms it. She said you didn't mind. The coordinator's words tumble out. That you'd agreed to. Step aside. The coffee cups make soft sounds against my desk as Miles sets them down. His hand finds my shoulder. When did she contact you? My voice sounds far away. Last week, she brought your parents. Your father spoke quite convincingly about the business advantages of their proposed event. Of course he did. Howard Bennett, turning my wedding into a networking opportunity for Brooke. I end the call with mechanical politeness. Miles kneels beside my chair, his architect's hands warm against mine. I have the contract here. I pull up the folder on my computer. We can fight this. Clara. His voice is gentle, testing. The deposit cleared. We have rights. Look at me. I turn. His eyes hold that steady warmth that first drew me in at his gallery installation. Do you want to fight your family through lawyers? He brushes a tear I hadn't felt fall. Or do you want to build something beautiful they can't touch? The room blurs. I press my forehead against his shoulder, breathing in sawdust and coffee. I need to talk to them first. I'll drive. An hour later, Howard's Mercedes gleams in the circular drive of my parents' Tudor mansion. I grip the folder of venue documents, contracts printed in precise black and white. The housekeeper shows us Howard's study. Morning light streams through leaded glass, highlighting the silver in his hair as he stands behind his mahogany desk. I was expecting you. He gestures to the leather chairs. We remain standing. Why? The word scrapes my throat. It's business, Clara. He straightens his tie. Brooke offered significantly more, and her guest list includes potential clients, media coverage. It's my wedding date, which can be changed. He opens his palms. Be reasonable. You've always managed without the spotlight. Brooke needs this. The words hit like physical blows. You've always managed. Brooke needs it. I've stepped aside my entire life. My voice cracks. My art shows. My graduations. Every time she wanted attention, I made myself smaller. That's what makes you special, darling. My mother appears in the doorway, pearls gleaming. You're so good at handling disappointment. Miles' hand tightens on my waist. Handling disappointment. The words taste like metal. Is that what you call it when I gave Brooke credit for the Morrison Building mural? The one I spent 6 months designing while she took Instagram photos of the process? She needed the portfolio boost. Margaret dabs at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. You were already established. I was established because I worked for it. Everything I have, I built myself, while you were funding Brooke's 5th career change. Now, Clara. Howard's business smile hardens. There's no need for dramatics. This is a simple venue change. It's not about the venue. The truth rises like dawn. It's about being seen, being heard, having something that's mine without Brooke taking it because she can. Brooke needs the spotlight. Howard's admission stops my breath. You've always managed without it. Always managed. I turn around and head back home. Another disappointment to manage well. The words echo as Miles and I drive home in silence. They follow me up the stairs to our apartment, ring in my ears as I fold my wedding dress into its garment bag, fingers trailing over each hand-stitched flower. Miles watches from the doorway, phone in hand. I recognize his expression, the one he wore presenting his first major design to the architecture board. Cancel the vendors, I whisper. I'll call the florist tomorrow. My phone buzzes. Brooke's name lights up the screen. Can't wait to show you my vision board for my perfect Oak Ridge wedding. Thinking champagne fountains and live doves. So much better than your little garden party plan. I set the phone face down. Miles crosses to the kitchen table, unfolds a leather portfolio I've never seen. There's something I need to show you. Blueprints spill across the oak surface. Glass and stone rising from desert rock. Sweeping windows framing mountain views. What is this? My estate in Flagstaff. His fingers trace the lines. I designed it after graduation. Built it with my trust fund before I walked away from the family business. I stare at him. Trust fund? Does the Whitaker Foundation ring any bells? The Architectural Preservation Society. The anonymous donor who funded the gallery we're met. That was you? He shrugs. I wanted to build something meaningful, not just add to the family portfolio. The plans blur as tears fill my eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Because you loved me for my sketches, not my bank account. His hand finds mine. The estate is yours, if you still want May 14th. Miles. I've watched you disappear a little more every time they asked you to step aside. His voice roughens. No more. No one gets to erase you again. I look at the blueprints, at the dress hanging silent in its bag, at the man who sees me, who's always seen me. Okay. The word comes out steady. Okay. I squeeze his hand. Show me our home. A smile breaks across his face like sunrise. Behind us, my phone buzzes with another text from Brooke. I don't turn around. Some doors need to close before others can open, and some people need to stop apologizing for taking up space in their own lives. I've spent 34 years being the responsible one, the good sister, the one who steps aside. Watch me step forward instead. 2 hours later, my phone buzzes against the kitchen counter, interrupting my 10th attempt at redesigning our wedding invitations. A notification from an unfamiliar account slides across the screen. You deserve better. Can we talk? The message sits there, stark and simple, from Lucas, Brooke's fiancé. Miles peers over my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck. You should meet him. And hear what? Another lecture about family loyalty? The words taste bitter. I've had enough of those from Mom this week. Clara. Miles catches my restless hands between his. You won't know until you listen. I text him back to meet tomorrow at the coffee shop near Chinatown. The next day, the coffee shop sits tucked between a bookstore and an antique mall, far from Brooke's usual haunts. Lucas already occupies a corner table, shoulders hunched beneath his expensive sweater. His fingers drum against a paper cup, and he keeps glancing toward the door. Thank you for coming. He pushes a second cup toward me as I sit. Vanilla latte, right? Brooke mentioned it once. The gesture catches me off guard. I wrap my hands around the warmth, letting the silence stretch. I didn't know. The words burst from him. About the venue, about any of it. Brooke told me you canceled because of budget issues. My grip tightens on the cup. That's not what happened. I know that now. He runs a hand through his hair. The whole thing's turned into this. Production, reality television cameras, sponsored centerpieces. Social media campaigns about our magical Bali meeting. His laugh holds no humor. We met on Hinge at happy hour. Lucas. He slides a flash drive across the table. You need to see this. The small black rectangle sits between us like a live grenade. I don't want to destroy my sister's happiness. No, his voice carries a sharp edge. You need to see who's actually destroying things. After we watched it together, I asked him, why? The word scrapes past my throat. Why are you showing me this? Lucas stares into his empty cup. Because this isn't the woman I thought I was marrying. 2 hours later, at home, Miles sets up his laptop while I pace our living room. We don't have to watch it, he says sully. Yes. I sink onto the couch beside him. We do. The first video opens with Brooke's face flushed with champagne and triumph. Of course I outbid her. Her laugh rings tinny through the speakers. Clara's so pathetic, always playing the good sister. I'm taking her perfect day because I can. My hands begin to shake. Miles pauses the playback, but I shake my head. Keep going. Screenshots fill the screen. Messages from Brooke to her friends. Clara's too soft. Too forgettable. She'll cave like always. Then audio. Brooke's voice, silk smooth, offering the gallery coordinator a consulting fee to bump my reservation. The drive contains hours more, but I've seen enough. Miles and I sit at our kitchen table, the evidence spread between us like shattered glass. We could send it to everyone, Miles suggests, but his tone tells me he already knows my answer. No, I trace the grain of the wooden table. I don't want revenge, I want. The right words hover just out of reach. Miles squeezes my hand. Recognition? Yes. Something loosens in my chest. Just the truth. He makes a call to his friend Stefan, an AV professional who helped document his architectural projects. Together, they craft a 5-minute video. No public humiliation, no dramatic accusations. Just Brooke's own words, carefully edited to show the pattern without the cruelest barbs. We'll embed it in the private RSVP links, Miles suggests. Only for our actual guests. An hour later, I watched the final cut, seeing my sister's face transform from practiced charm to calculated spite. The familiar urge to protect her rises, but something else rises stronger. I'm not going to erase her. The words come slowly, each one certain. I'm just going to stop erasing myself. The next weeks pass in a blur of purpose. The estate in Flagstaff transforms. Glass walls rise between ancient stone, framing views of red rock cliffs and endless sky. Desert wildflowers bloom along winding paths, their colors echoing the embroidery on my dress. Miles coordinates with quiet efficiency, his architectural vision merging with my artistic one. Each decision feels like reclaiming a piece of myself. The RSVPs begin arriving, not just check marks but notes. The venue looks breathtaking. We can't wait to see what you've created. This will be extraordinary. Whispers reach us through mutual friends. Questions about our unique location. Speculation about the artistic triumph we're planning. Even Mom's Bridge Club buzzes with curiosity. I sit in what will be our ceremony space, watching sunset paint the glass walls in shades of amber and rose. The air smells of sage and possibility. Miles finds me there, 2 cups of hot chocolate in his hands, just like the night we got engaged. Look what came today. He sets a thick envelope beside me. Another wedding invitation, cream and gold, announcing Brooke and Lucas's celebration at Oak Ridge Atelier. I pick it up, feeling its weight. The old ache stirs but doesn't overwhelm. She'll find out soon, Miles says softly. About the video, about this place. I know. The desert wind whispers through native grasses we planted along the paths, but I'm done living in her shadow. The sun slips behind distant mountains. Through the glass walls, stars begin to emerge, bright and uncompromising. I think of all the times I dimmed my own light to let Brooke shine brighter. Sometimes. I tell Miles, the most powerful response to cruelty isn't shouting louder. My fingers find his, warm and steady. It's creating something so beautiful it speaks for itself. In the growing darkness, our estate glows like a lighthouse. Not a statement of revenge, but a declaration of worth. A place where nothing and no one will be erased. My phone chimes. Another message from Lucas. She knows. A week later, Brooke's latest Instagram story freezes mid-ramble, her perfect smile faltering as she refreshes her follower count. 20 less than yesterday, 50 less than last week. The phone slips from her fingers onto her silk duvet. What do you mean you can't match it? Her voice cracks through my laptop speakers. The wedding planner's response comes muffled, apologetic. I close the video Lucas sent, my hands steady on the keyboard as I grade student portfolios. A text from Mom lights up my phone. Have you seen what Brooke posted about the venue upgrades? I let it sit unanswered, like the 15 others this week. Through my office window, desert wildflowers catch the morning light, their shadows painting patterns on student artwork. My advanced class's final pieces will be perfect for the wedding. Later that day, the drive to Sagewind Estate winds through hills dotted with saguaros. Each curve reveals another angle of Miles's vision glass walls reflecting sunset colors, stone terraces overlooking valleys that stretch forever. 2 workers carefully position an ancient olive tree along the entrance path, its gnarly branches reaching toward others already settled into their new home. Your sister's wedding planner called again. Sandra, the estate manager, tells me as I walk past. I followed your instructions, no details provided. Thank you. The words come easily now, without the guilt that used to chase them. Inside, my former student Maria adjusts lighting in the main hall. The glass ceiling bathes her installation in natural light copper wire sculptures that catch and scatter sunshine like desert rain. Perfect, I tell her. Her smile mirrors my own. Later that night at home, Miles finds me on the terrace as the sun sinks toward the horizon. He carries 2 mugs of hot chocolate, steam curling in the cooling air. Just like that night in Sedona. He settles beside me on the stone bench, his shoulder warm against mine. The video edit is ready, he says quietly. Want to see it? I take a slow sip, letting the chocolate warm me from inside. Show me. His laptop screen glows in the gathering dusk. The footage begins with Brooke's voice, sharp with triumph. Claire is so pathetic, always the good sister. I'm taking her perfect day because I can. Cut to the gallery coordinator's careful testimony about the bribery attempt. Lucas's pained confession about the stolen venue. We removed the worst parts, Miles says, like you asked. I touch the screen where Brooke's face freezes in mid-laugh. She's my sister, I whisper. Even now. I know. His arm tightens around me. That's why we're not blasting this everywhere. Just the private RSVP portal. My phone buzzes again. Dad's number. I let it ring through to voicemail, already knowing what it'll say. His business voice, demanding explanations. Mom's tears about family harmony. I open my email instead, typing 3 sentences to their joint account. I've made my decision. The estate wedding will proceed as planned. I hope you'll understand. Brooke's latest Instagram live starts automatically when I close the email. Her voice sounds brittle as she describes these stunning upgrades to Oak Ridge Atelier. The comments scroll past. But what about the estate wedding everyone's talking about? Is it true about Sagewind? Which venue is better? The live ends abruptly. Miles's hand finds mine in the growing darkness. Having second thoughts? I look out over the valley, where the first stars pierce the purple sky. The estate glows from within, every window warm with possibility. Student artwork lines the wall spaces I've watched grow from tentative sketches to bold statements. My own reflection in the glass shows a woman I'm finally starting to recognize. No, I say. I'm not doing this to hurt her, I'm doing this for us. For them. I gesture to Maria's sculptures, to the student photographs and paintings that will surround our guests. For everyone who's ever been told their vision wasn't big enough. Speaking of vision, Miles pulls out his phone, showing me Lucas's latest text. The Oak Ridge wedding party has dropped by half. Sponsors pulling out, celebrity guests sending regrets. I close the message. Not our problem. We sit in comfortable silence as full dark settles, the estate's lights casting gentle shadows. Tomorrow, my advanced students arrive to help with the flowers. Their excitement fills my inbox not just about the wedding but about seeing their art displayed with purpose, with pride. The last voicemail notification blinks on my phone. Mom's voice, no longer demanding, but uncertain. Clara, please, can't we talk about this? I fold my fingers through Miles's, feeling the quiet strength of his hand. The answer will keep until morning. Right now, the desert night wraps around us like a promise, and for once, the silence speaks louder than words. Behind us, Maria's sculptures catch starlight, throwing unexpected patterns across the terrace. Beautiful because they refuse to apologize for the space they claim. Like me. The hot chocolate warms my hands, just like that night Miles proposed. But this time, I'm not the one who needs to disappear. On the wedding day, the desert light pours through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting golden stripes across my wedding dress. The hand-stitched florals catch the dawn, each petal a story of perseverance blooming against white silk. My fingers trace the embroidery, hundreds of hours of work transformed into something permanent, something mine. A knock at the door breaks my reverie. Sarah, my closest friend since college, peeks in. Breakfast delivery. She carries a silver tray with fresh berries and a handwritten note. The paper trembles in my hands as I unfold it. Miles's architect's script flows across the page. Remember the hot chocolate in Sedona? Today we built something even better. All my love, M. My eyes blur. Sarah squeezes my shoulder. No tears yet. We just finished your makeup. Outside, the estate hums with activity. My former students arrive early, arms full of desert wildflowers. They spread across the grounds like a well-choreographed dance, placing arrangements with the same care they once used in my classroom. Through the window, I watch Lily, first teaching assistant, direct the others, with quiet confidence. Professor Bennett! They wave up at me. The sight fills my chest with warmth. These are my people, the family I chose. The morning flows like water. My dress settles around me, each embroidered flower finding its place. Sarah weaves olive branches through my hair, the silver-green leaves catching light. Ready? She asks. I study my reflection. The woman in the mirror stands straight, shoulders back, no more shrinking. The ceremony space takes my breath away. Desert flora frames the glass walls of Miles's masterpiece, bringing the landscape inside. Guests fill the seats, not the society crowd Brooke would have invited, but faces that matter. My students, fellow artists, people who saw me even when I tried to disappear. Your choice, Sarah reminds me as we pause at the aisle's start. No one has to give you away. Music rises, not the traditional march, but the indie song that played the night Miles and I met. My first steps are steady. Each foot forward carries the weight of a decision. To be seen, to take up space, to shine. Miles waits beneath an arch of desert wildflowers. His eyes never leave mine as I approach. This is no performance for cameras or social media, just us, building something real. Our vows flow from memory, not cards. Miles speaks of quiet strength and second chances. I promise to stand beside him, never behind. When he squeezes my hands, I feel the calluses from his work architect's hands that build beautiful things. The reception unfolds in the estate's great room. Laughter bounces off glass walls as sunset paints the desert copper. I spotted the gallery coordinator from Oak Ridge among the guests, her smile genuine. No Lukash's absence speaks volumes. Miles leads me to our first dance. The same song plays. His whisper tickles my ear. Look around. This is the wedding you deserved. He's right. Every detail reflects intention, not spectacle. Student artwork lines the walls. The cake features hand-painted desert blooms. Each element tells our story. Miles's best man hands him a microphone for his toast. My husband, the word still new on my tongue, glances at the AV team and nods once. To my wife, Miles begins, who taught me that true strength isn't loud. Screens descend silently. My heart pounds as Brooke's voice fills the room. Clara's so pathetic, always the good sister. I'm taking her perfect day because I can. Gasps ripple through the crowd. The gallery coordinator's testimony follows, describing Brooke's attempt to bribe her way into my date. I sit perfectly still, hands folded in my lap. This isn't revenge, it's the truth, finally set free. The video ends. In the silence that follows, the main doors burst open. Brooke stands in the entrance, designer dress wrinkled, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Her finger shakes as she points at me. You planned this. I start to rise, years of peacekeeping, pushing me to smooth things over one last time. But another voice cuts through the tension. Talia Brooke Bennett. Our mother stands, spine straight as a steel rod. The use of Brooke's middle name freezes everyone who knows our family history. It's Margaret's nuclear option, saved for moments of severest disapproval. Leave, Margaret's voice carries to every corner. This is not your day. Howard rises beside her, hand settling on her shoulder. The gesture speaks volumes, a united front, decades too late but present now. Brooke's mouth opens and closes. She's never faced real consequences before. The shock on her face would be comical if it weren't so sad. She turns and flees, designer heels clicking against marble. Margaret approaches our table slowly. I've been blind for too long. Howard follows, awkward in his attempt at apology. Clara, I hold up my hand. Thank you for standing up just now, but we'll need time. They nod, understanding the boundary. The reception flows on, guests dance, stories are shared, joy rebuilds itself in the spaces where truth cleared the air. Later, Miles finds me on the balcony. The desert sunset paints everything in shades of possibility. He wraps his arms around me from behind, and we watch stars appear above the estate we'll call home. Any regrets? He asks. I lean back against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Just one. Oh? I wish I'd learned sooner that standing my ground doesn't make me the bad guy. He kisses my temple. You learned it exactly when you needed to. Below us, the party continues. But here, in this quiet moment, I finally feel the full weight of what we've built, not just a wedding or a home, but a life where I no longer need to make myself small. The desert wind carries the scent of sage and celebration. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges, but tonight, I am exactly where I should be, exactly who I should be. And that's more than enough. A month later, after the wedding and honeymoon, I press my fingertips against the cream envelope, thick Italian paper catching the morning light streaming through our Flagstaff windows. The Florence postmark brings a smile to my lips. 2 weeks of art and architecture, Miles sketching beside the Arno while I wandered through centuries-old textile shops. But this envelope isn't from Italy. The familiar slanted handwriting twists my stomach into a familiar knot. Brooke. Everything okay? Miles appears in the doorway, hair still damp from his shower. The seal breaks under my thumb. Inside, a single sheet of expensive stationery carries 5 words in my sister's precise script. This isn't over. You stole everything. A laugh bubbles up, surprising us both. I slide the letter into the drawer where I keep old sketches and half-finished designs. Actually, yes, everything's perfect. Miles wraps his arms around my waist, chin resting on my shoulder. You sure? Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. I turn in his embrace, breathing in the clean scent of his soap. And that's okay. The same afternoon when I went for the lectures, the college hallways buzz with afternoon energy when Dean Rivera catches me outside my office. "Professor Bennett, got a minute?" Inside, she settles into my visitor's chair, glancing at the framed wedding dress on the wall, me former student Maria's final project, the desert florals telling our story in thread and patience. "We're creating a new position, Director of Arts and Equity Initiatives." She taps my desk with one manicured nail. "Focus on first-generation artists, mentoring programs. The board was particularly impressed with your work supporting non-traditional students." My throat tightens. I'd be honored. "The salary reflects the responsibility." She slides over a folder. "You've earned this, Clara." That evening, we went to visit my parents. My parents' dining room table felt smaller. Margaret serves pot roast on her everyday plates instead of the formal china. Howard passes the potatoes without commentary on proper serving techniques. "The college mentoring program sounds wonderful," Margaret ventures, her fork pausing halfway to her lips. "Those students are lucky to have you." "Thank you, Mom." The words come easier now, wrapped in simple truth rather than desperate approval, seeking. Brooke's empty chair sits like a ghost between us. Last I heard, she'd moved back home after Lucas called off the engagement. We navigate around her absence like skilled sailors steering clear of familiar rocks. "Miles, how's the new project coming along?" Howard's attempt at casual conversation carries the weight of effort, of trying. "Sustainable housing development? Ahead of schedule." Miles squeezes my hand under the table. Though Clara's eye for color transformed the whole aesthetic. "Always did have a good eye," Howard mutters into his coffee. Coming from him, it's practically a sonnet. Monday next week finds me in my office, surrounded by student portfolios. A knock draws my attention to the door where Jenna hovers, clutching her sketchbook. Her talent reminds me of myself at 19, all fire and uncertainty, needing permission to burn bright. "Professor Bennett, I redid the self-portrait series." "Come in." I clear space on my desk. "And remember, your art deserves to take up space." The afternoon sun paints shadows across her latest work, raw, honest pieces that make my chest ache with recognition. "These are extraordinary, Jenna." My mom thinks art is a hobby. Her fingers twist in her sweater. Dad says it's not a real career. Look at me. I wait until she meets my eyes. "What matters is what you think." A tap at the door reveals Miles holding takeout bags. "Lunch break?" Jenna leaves as he comes in. He spreads architectural drawings across my desk while we eat, his enthusiasm contagious as he describes our future home. "The studio will catch the morning light perfectly." "You've thought of everything." I learned from the best. He steals one of my spring rolls. "Speaking of which, your students' show at Oak Ridge opens next week." After we ate lunch, we went to the venue. 2 hours later, the gallery coordinator greets me like an old friend when we arrive for the installation. Looking around the space that was supposed to be my wedding venue, a peculiar peace settles over me. The path that felt like betrayal led somewhere better. That evening, Miles and I sat on our terrace, watching the sun paint the desert in amber and rose. A year ago, I couldn't have imagined this, the certainty in my bones, the quiet joy of choosing myself. "Any regrets?" Miles asks, his fingers tracing patterns on my arm. "About the video, the truth coming out?" I consider his question, watching a hawk circle overhead. "I spent my life making room for everyone else. I finally made room for us." The desert breeze carries the scent of sage and endless possibility. "That's not regret, that's freedom." His kiss tastes like promise and hard-won peace. Behind us, the house Miles built glows golden in the fading light, a testament to what happens when you stop disappearing and start building something real. Some say family comes first, no matter what. But as the sun sets over our chosen home, I understand that sometimes standing your ground isn't selfishness, it's self-respect. And in that space between what we're taught to accept and what we dare to deserve, we find our truest selves.